Need a recap of Severance Season 1 before you watch Season 2? I got you. The show starts by introducing us to Mark, Dylan, and Irving, who all work for a company called Lumon, in a department called Macro Data Refinement, or MDR, where they basically sort scary numbers all day. And they've had a surgery called Severance that severs their work and personal life memories. While in work, they're called innies, and outside of work, they're called outies. And we find out that Mark had the surgery because his wife passed away a few years ago in a car crash. One day, Mark's work best friend Petey up and quits, so his replacement is Helly, who's an innie wants no part of working at Lumon. But her outie says too bad. We also meet Mr. Milchick and Miss Cobell, their creepy supervisors, and Miss Cobell doubles as Mark's neighbor, Miss Selvig, and she spies on him. And plot twist, one day Petey suddenly shows up to Mark outside of work. He had his severance reversed, and he tells Mark that Lumon is up to no good. And he actually ends up staying with Mark for a bit. But that time is short-lived because, well, he dies due to side effects of his reversal. Meanwhile, Helly still hates her job, tries to quit. Her outie says, suck it up because you're not a real person. So Helly tries to hang herself. It doesn't work, and her outie still forces her to work. So she gets put on watch by Miss Casey, the company's wellness director. We also meet the optics and design department led by Bert G, and they all kind of beef with MDR. Well, except for Bert and Irving. Mark manages to help Helly get away from Miss Casey for a while, and they go on a walk, and Miss Casey's negligence ends up getting her in trouble with the company. On their walk, Mark and Helly come across a guy raising goats and other weird stuff, and they decide to join forces with O&D to figure out what's really going on at Lumon. And while with O&D, Dylan grabs a card that he finds. More on this in a second. This department team up pisses off Miss Cobell and management, and she forces Bert G to retire. Oh, and also Miss Cobell is like weirdly obsessed with Lumon's founder, Keir Egan, and it seems like a lot of other people are too. Mark, he discovers Petey's phone that was left at his house and uses it to meet up with the doctor that conducted Petey's severance procedure. And she's anti-severance now and takes out a Lumon security member and gives Mark his card so that any Mark can use it. More on that in a second. Speaking of cards, remember the one that Dylan took from O&D? Yeah, apparently it was super important because Milchick wants it back so bad that he activates what's called the overtime contingency, which we're going to call the OC from now on. The OC activates any Dylan outside of work so Milchick can ask him where the card is. But this doesn't go as planned at all because any Dylan sees his son and now he's a changed man. He tells the team about the OC and they realize they need to somehow activate it for all of them so they can tell the world how bad Severance really is. Mark finds a security card and gives it to Dylan, who gets to stay late for a weird waffle party because the department met their quota and he was the top performer. And he sneaks away and breaks into the security office to activate the OC for everyone. Mark wakes up at a party where he discovers Miss Cobell is his outie's neighbor, and he blows his cover by calling her Miss Cobell and not Mrs. Selvig. And then Mark tells his sister to expose Lumon to the world. Over to outie Bert, he's some sort of prophetic painter, but he's also done a lot of research about Severance, which could come in handy. And he goes and finds Bert G, but he's apparently married. And over to Helly, she's at a party too, but plot twist, we discover that she's actually Helly Egan, and her father is the CEO of Lumon. The party is a pro-Severance party, and she's the main speaker. So she uses her time in the spotlight to spill the beans to everyone. But the biggest plot twist of all comes at the end of the season when we discover that Mark's wife, who supposedly passed away, is actually Miss Casey. And the season ends by the overtime contingency being shut off for everybody. If you found this helpful, follow me here and on my other socials as well.